Welcome to Career Secrets Channel. I'm your host, Professor Edmund. Today, I'm excited to talk again to Louis Bessett. This episode is your ultimate guide to mastering interview challenges. We're zoning in on crucial skills of handling objections and mastering tough interview questions. Whether you are a fresh entrant into the job market or an experienced professional learning the art of objection handling, confident responses to tricky questions are key to interview success. This episode is packed with effective strategies, real-life scenarios, and practical tips to help you easily navigate your next interview. We'll cover everything from explaining resume gaps to acing behavioral questions. Arm yourself with a notepad, fine-tune your communication prowess, and let's decode the secrets to interview mastery. Are you ready to take the plunge? Let's get started. Louis, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Louis, I teach a couple of professional selling courses. For me, research and preparation are the most important steps in gaining confidence and performing well in any presentation, including an interview. Do you have any tips for candidates to prepare for an interview?
Absolutely. So knowing the stakeholder, number one, you're going into an interview, know the name of the person you're interviewing with. For sure, they're on LinkedIn. There's also what I call a technique called the sniffing technique. Do you know anybody that knows the person you're going to be talking to? Is there anything we can know prior to talking to them, specifically personality profiling? Are they driven? Are they analytical? Are they friendly? Are they expressive? We're going to be talking about this as well today. And then they go back to drivers. Sometimes they're friendly. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes it doesn't really matter, but you try to imitate their personality. So if I could be armed by, during an interview saying, by the way, for example, Edmund, before we went on this interview together, I did sniff you out.
Excellent. I actually was looking at Crystal Notes, which is a piece of software that actually helps you do this, understanding personality profile and mimicking their behavior and how they talk is actually really good. Thank you.
It's a fun game. It's a fun game.
We're going to talk about objection handling.
Yep.
The tough questions. Question number 2, when it comes to objection handling in sales, we have a 5-step process called LOC. Somebody call it LOC. I call it LOC because I don't want to miss the double A. So it's LAARC. L is listening. A is acknowledgement. And then we ask clarification questions. And after that, we respond to the question and confirm that we have answered the question.
Beautiful.
Do you have a special way to answer these questions in an interview?
That's good. And I think it encompasses these techniques. So great that you have an acronym. So let's go through objection handling. We're going to role play on something that doesn't exist. Someone says to you, we have some concerns with your candidacy because you don't know how to make apple pie. Objection. Perfect. So you listen, you heard it, you repeat it, which I believe would go your first thing, which is you just said to me that I don't know how to make apple pie. Hey, let's say you're an expert at making apple pie. We were listening, we're acknowledging. By the way, there's an 80% chance that the stakeholder will remove the objection themselves. So they say, well, it's not really apple pie. I don't know how to make apple pie. Is there any other issues with my candidacy that are concerning you? Which I believe is as per your second A. If it's the only thing, it's great because then we're going to have to put an attack strategy, which I believe is your response. And we're going to discuss the attack strategy. So no, the only issue which you have with your candidacy is you don't know how to make apple pie. I said, no problem. There's 2 things that can happen. 1, they might be right. 2, they might be wrong. Let's say they are right. You've never made apple pie in your life. Now we're going to start using the technique. We're going to nod the same direction as their head. You've never made apple pie. You're absolutely correct. I have never made apple pie in my life or my career before. Now we're going to use a technique called a mini Mexican standoff. Mexican standoffs are the first one to talk loses. So I've never made apple pie. Count to 3 in your head. 1, 2, 3. There's a potential moment there in those 3 seconds that the stakeholder might say it's not a big problem anyway. So that again, letting the stakeholder remove the objection themselves. However, they might make you do your 3-second Mexican standoff. And now you have to deal with something you've never done before and you're both nodding your heads in the same direction. So let's go through. That is absolutely correct. I've never made apple pie before. Are you currently eliminating my candidacy because I never made apple pie before? Let's get out of role play. Would you rather know now that you're never going to get hired? Or would you rather know through a broken telephone later? There's an 80% chance the fact they told you they have a problem with that objection is they still like you. No, we're not eliminating your candidacy because of that. Now it's time to change the rules. Fair to say, I'm going back into role play. I'm really happy you're not eliminating my candidacy. But on the next step of whatever interview we're doing, there might be another step after that. Would it be fair for me to come armed with a plan to show you how I could scale to make apple pie? I'll give you a 30, 60, 90-day plan, a SWOT analysis, which is a strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats about my candidacy. By the way, I know how to make blueberry pie. Maybe I can use these techniques to show you I can make apple pie. What just happened here? It's not the fact you don't know how to make apple pie anymore. You're going to change the rules on everybody. Why? Because you're coming in with a plan on the next interview. Guess what they're going to ask the other people that potentially know how to make apple pies to make a plan? Is everybody going to make a plan? No, they won't. That's called flank and change the rules. We're talking about now military techniques on how to win war.
Excellent. I love it because based on the strengths and weaknesses of an individual candidate, you can then use the technique, the Mexican standoff, let them back down, or change the rules.
Absolutely.
So that you can respond.
Let's say they do eliminate the candidacy, and then it's okay.
Objection, Your Honor. I've got an interesting scenario because I can see experienced candidates being able to elaborate and also change the rule and have fun with this and be really successful.
Yeah.
But I can also see that it's not appropriate for a junior candidate because they just don't know how to spin it.
Yeah.
What should they do?
All right. We're talking straight out of school here, Edmund. Someone that's going hard on you on objection handling. They're not hiring your experience. They're not going to ask you what you've done. They're going to go straight on a character trait. What were your grades, or grades are important. Any other things? The character is going to increase for juniors. The more you show you want the job, the more you increase your probability of winning the opportunity. Self-awareness, accountability, integrity. We've talked about that before because you're not coming in with experience. People are not going to measure that from you. They're going to measure, well, how much do you want the job? What are you ready to do to go through a wall? So the flank and change rule still applies here. Imagine you're a junior rep coming into an interview and you're already talking about making a plan. This person is like 1 year out of school and already talking about plans and attack strategies and science and the way they're going to do it. So what we have to, you don't have, let's say someone's interviewing you and they say, you don't have experience. Okay. Because they're straight out of school, right? So you got to repeat that. Is that the only concern you have about my candidacy? Is that I don't have any experience? And then he's like, yeah, anything else? No, you're absolutely right. Maybe yes. Okay. Next time when I do come back to you, Edmund, because I didn't have any experience, what kind of experience would you want me to have for me to call you back? And when do I have the permission to call you back? Because I'm going to go out there, get my, you're going to be my first call. It's just practice new things on low risk. And then do we still have time on this interview for me to ask you questions on how I can understand the experience I would need the next time I come to you? Practice new things. You have nothing to lose.
Brilliant. Brilliant. What if I have a resume gap of any kind and face some challenging question?
Yeah, I see gaps in resumes all the time. I say, what happened? I've heard it's personal. Indeed, your personal life will impact your career. And I've heard them all. Talk about I've lost a child. I went through a divorce. I was taking care of my mom. Okay, well, what are you going to, so I'm a broker. What are you going to do when they ask you about what happened? Integrity, it wins. I'm going to use my robot voice so we don't forget. Is this the only objection you have on my candidacy? Yes, it is. Let's go talk about it then. All right. Here's what happened. Tell the truth. Be prepared for it. Have your story ready. But the 5 biggest thing in one's life, changing jobs, it's stressful. Having kids, stressful. Getting married, getting divorced, taking care of someone sick, being sick. These are all things that impact your life. If there's a gap, you went back to school. Of course there's a gap. No, let's explain what happened. I think integrity wins here. Are you eliminating my candidacy because of the gap? They won't eliminate you. Interviews are high stress. So show the confidence of saying in a high stress situation, I'm calm. I'm going to ask you questions as well. Is that an issue? Do you think you can eliminate my candidacy because of the gap? I think integrity wins all the time.
Absolutely. I love the way how you talk about this because it goes back to your point about storytelling and storytelling with integrity. You have to think about it ahead of time to explain all the gaps. Next question. How do you answer the questions that meant to throw you off guard? They may not be really interested in the answer. They just want to throw you off guard to see your reaction.
So it's called a trap. It's a hot potato trap. It's the same technique. The hot potato trap or traps are usually more complex. Would you like me to tell you a story on how I delivered a project. I closed the deal. Fall back to your story. We've talked about stories before, and we can talk about stories as much as we can. You have a project you worked on, give it a code name. There was a year, a time frame. There was an issue, a business challenge, money, productivity. There was your role. You assessed it. You build a strategy. You executed it. Usually a trap will be more complex, will be something to just get you off balance.
Excellent. I've got another method I want to share. When I coach my students, a challenging question, if you really don't know how to answer it, make sure you ask the question, just like what you.
Of course. Absolutely. Yeah.
By nature, for the resume, you should always have the most relevant strength and experience for this particular job on the first page of your resume.
Yep.
Then when you have a chance, transition back to talking about the strength right there. Even if you're nervous, you go back to it.
Yes.
The other thing also is, just because of the nature of the question, nobody would have a really good answer for it. So you are no different from any other. But in your mind, you should feel confident and just go straight back to, even if you're nervous, even if you don't have a clue what they're asking about, you just go straight back to page number 1, top half.
Yes.
Talk about your strength.
Beautiful. Keep on showing confidence. Go in understanding on the bell curve. You're completely on the right of how rare you are. Pump them up. Show them, going in. Don't forget to seek critical feedback. So that's how I prepare. That conversation is a 10, 15-minute conversation of preparing a candidate. Make sure they come in with their game face on.
Great. Next question. How do you answer the question, what are your greatest weaknesses?
You repeat my greatest weaknesses, and then you can do a bit of a mini Mexican and breathe it in and be ready. Now, if you're too ready, it wasn't from your heart. It was from your head. Oh, great weaknesses. I know mine. I always approach it in a high energy, high intensity, expressive. The tactics that I bring to the table are scientific. I had a gentleman once say to me, Louis, you're like a surgeon. You're precise, but you forgot to put anesthesia. And I went, that's good feedback. I was like, okay, he says, we know what you're doing. We get that you get the data, but my goodness, were you pulling teeth out of their mouth? And I was, okay, yeah. So with that, you seek as well a reinforcement from your audience. This is something I'm working on. This is how I have addressed it in approaching, and I'm in sales. So, you have to put it into whatever kind of business you want to get into. Here's how I improved. Here's the indicators that I saw that are better than before. And that's an amazing self-aware question. I think another tough question you might get, and I wanted to prepare your candidates for this, is where do you see yourself 5 years from now? They will get it, right? Just stop making a joke here. The joke is always hopefully not at the same place answering that question. That's the joke. You don't say that unless you're a senior guy.
That's a really good one.
That's a good one.
And it'll buy you a few seconds.
Yes. So we're answering that question. Okay. So the real approach is that question has nothing to do about you. It has everything to do about the audience here in front of. I see myself reporting into you or through a chain of command through you, wherever you want it to be 5 years from now, because as you grow your career, I'm going to grow mine. Expect to be hired on the spot if you deliver that way, because it has nothing to do with you, has everything to do to make your hiring manager grow. So there's the person I want to hire. So that's the way you deal with the 5. By the way, you can come in prepared. So I was coached on that answer. It works every time. The next step is critical feedback. Is there anything I could have done better to represent my candidacy? Get that. Great. If I don't hear back from you by Monday, I can reach back to you Tuesday. Yes.
Brilliant. So Louis, thank you again. You and I will record some more videos. So stay tuned, everybody.
Thank you.
Preparation and confidence are your best allies in the quest for career success. Dive into our channel's wealth of resources to polish your interview techniques. If you find our content helpful, make sure to like and subscribe to stay informed about our latest updates. Please also ask any questions you can think of in the comments and we will answer them. Until next time, this is Professor Edmund, and these are your career secrets.